Previously, there have been reports that the Taliban was going around and poisoning schoolgirls. Now, there were several incidences of poisoning. However, a lot of them turned out to be absolutely nothing, as there was no trace of poison or anything suspicious even having been found. So, as a result, this got written off as a psychogenic illness, just mass hysteria caused from decades of war in Afghanistan and the general paranoia that comes from being within a war zone. Now, however, the Afghan government, after having blamed them and then finding out a lot of them, just didn't even happen and there's no evidence of them, have decided to arrest 15 people that they claim are involved in the poisonings. Now, when they're arrested, they're accused of bribing students and workers to sneak toxic chemicals into drinking water or spread it around school grounds, sickening all kinds of people. Now, they also claimed that they were female students that were paid 50,000 Afghanis, over about 1,000 US, to contaminate water tanks in their schools with a toxic powder. Now, this was originally blamed on the Taliban. However, they were, in these situations, were not actually able to find any traces of poison. Just mysterious reports of people being sick with nothing, no medical evidence to actually back anything up, which is why they said that they thought it might be a psychogenic illness. Just mass hysteria given the war situation. Now, an Afghan intelligence service spokesman spoke on the situation. They want to create terror and fear among students, especially in the education sector and also in the health sector, which are two of the major achievements of the past 10 years of the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan. I find that statement to be absolutely terrible. The level of healthcare that is in the country, in the vast majority of the country, isn't even up to level of where it was during the Taliban rule. So that's to me that's just an outright ridiculous claim by them. Now, the education sector, again, I can't really judge whether or not it's really the same as it was under the Taliban. I don't really know. I just know now, after the war, there's bombed schools. Now, a Taliban spokesman, Zabullah Mujahid, did respond to this statement and to the accusation that they were poisoning schoolgirls. The poisoning of innocent children is against Islamic law. The Mujahideen are not involved in the poisoning of school children. It is a crime. Now, even now, after all the time, after having 15 people arrested, accused of being the ones carrying out this poisoning, there's still no evidence of any poison. Now, they've caught people that they claim were doing the poisoning, yet neither in them or the people who've gotten sick are there any traces of poison. They've not even released what name of the poison that they think it might be. So even that information isn't even available. They're so confident that there was this poisoning, yet there's no poisoning, which makes the whole thing seem very suspicious. To me, it seems very much like a false flag. The whole thing was a false flag from the beginning. There's all these accounts of people being poisoned, yet there's no traces of any poison. Now, when you have a situation where it's explained from a mass psychogenic illness, which is a completely irrational reaction to everything that's going on, and then the Afghan government turns around and blames the Taliban for these poisonings while finding out there isn't any poisonings and there's no poison actually going on, not to mention the fact that these could have been caused by actually a complete lack of sanitary conditions. That could have also been a reasonable factor behind people getting sick. So now they find that there's no illnesses, there's no trace of any poison after they had already blamed the Taliban for these poisonings. So now they look kind of, well, like they're liars, or they're just horribly misinformed and possibly even incompetent. So now they've arrested 15 people claiming that they're behind this. It's funny how you can arrest somebody for a crime when there's not even evidence or even really anything substantial to show that a crime even actually occurred. Now, obviously, if the Taliban did actually poison these school kids, well, then to hell with them. I hope they rot in hell for poisoning schoolgirls. But it doesn't seem at the present moment there being any actual evidence of this actually happening. Now, the funny thing is, given the extremely suspicious nature of these accusations, why are they necessary? Why not stick to real, concrete, provable things that the Taliban has done? And there are some of those. There are real things the Taliban has done wrong, and things that contradict any kind of progressive stance And they couldn't have had this whole war without crime. So there's had to be crimes carried out somewhere by Taliban forces. Now, if the Taliban is so bad, and they are so, I can't really use a reaction. I guess I can use reactionary in this context. Then put them out there. I mean, if there are real things that you can use against them, why go with vague stuff like this? And just go with the real thing. This almost sounds like the first world is feminist line of we have to continue the invasions of these countries in order to protect women from the societies that they live in while going out and actually killing more women than possibly claiming to be saving. It does somewhat feel that way to me, the first worldist, feminist imperialist line, as a justification for war and not out of a real actual concern for the lives of women in situations like that. Because they're just, U.S. forces and NATO forces are just, Western audiences are just not getting that Taliban is still extremely popular. They are still well liked among the population and still have a very high approval rating. I can't think of any other word to use than approval rating. There's been multiple studies that still show that in some places they're a vast majority, in some places they're a large minority. The Taliban is still extremely popular because people don't like the U.S. occupying forces, and that's completely logical. People don't like being occupied, so situations like this are going to arise. It's just very sad that after all these years, a decade of war in Afghanistan, NATO forces cannot get it through their head why people don't like them and don't really want to ally with them, because they know that NATO is there not to help them but to subjugate them to imperialist interests.